Well, welcome back, everybody, to video number 5 in the mathematics of pricing and business management. I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and if you remember properly, yesterday we went over how to price for that 8x10 that you're going out. So you'll be able to apply that to your smaller prints, your wallets, your 16x20s, whatever you have, your wall prints. You'll be able to apply that now that you go in and actually analyze those hard costs. You got to be able to do that to be able to figure out what those costs need to be when you're going out. Today, we're actually going to figure out how to price out that wedding. So for those of you who are out there who are charging $50 or $100 to do that wedding, or even $300 or $400 to do that wedding, you might want to think about what your overhead is before you actually go out and do that. How much does that equipment cost you every year? What happens when you have to replace it? Do you just say, well, I'm going to go out and spend $3,000 on a replacement when maybe you've only spent, maybe you've only made a few $100s all year, or maybe even a couple thousand this year, but you just spent another $3,000 to $4,000 to replace that camera that you've been using on those wedding gigs, and all of a sudden, now you're figuring out, man, is this actually worth it? Well, we didn't go through and do the cost analyzation, and so now you don't know exactly where you are as far as business is concerned. So let's figure out that price of the wedding. So the first thing we're going to be able to do is to go in and let's figure it out. How many hours do you spend with that customer on the original meeting? For me, it's a couple hours that I have to go through and spend with them on that original meeting to kind of map this out. Some of you may do this longer, maybe some of you are shorter, but let's figure out that time. Next is those engagement portrait hours. Do you actually include this inside your packages? For my packages, I actually do include that engagement portrait to be able to go with it. So I've got to figure out those hours, and then I've got to be able to process that engagement session and get them out so that they can view them. So I've got an hour for that. And then I've got my pre-wedding meeting. How many hours do you have in that meeting right before the wedding to go over all of the different details that are going to go on? And again, you're maybe a little bit longer in time or a little bit less in time, but let's write them down. We've got to figure this out when we do the actual thing itself. So how many hours during that day? Wedding day hours. Let's say my wedding package includes 10 hours of coverage. This could include driving to go along with it. That's something that you're going to have to try to figure out inside that. You've got how many hours processing those 2,000 or 3,000 images that you've selected. For me, total time, by the time I do all my color balance and the whole shooting match, it runs around 2 to 3 hours, depending on the wedding package that I have in here. And then my proof book costs. I actually hand out proof books so that we'll be able to go in and do the final wedding album. And then we have our miscellaneous costs. These are costs that we've seen outside. How much did it cost us for the gasoline to do that particular product? How much money do we have in whatever items that are out there? We've got to be able to figure in all those costs when we're going in and doing our particular job. So what I've done is I've mapped out all of the different costs that we have here to be able to do this wedding, and I've added them all in here. So we've got 20 hours invested in this particular item, which is, if you remember from our math, is $108.60 per hour. And we've got to be able to bill out for those 20 billable hours. So that comes to $21.72. Now, you've got that $1,033.33 over there. What the heck is that? How did we come up with that dollar amount? Well, how we came up with the dollar amount is that, remember, your proof book costs and your miscellaneous costs are cost of goods. They're not general overhead. So we need to be pricing out where we would normally be on your cost of goods. So if your cost of goods is 20% or 30% or whatever it is, you got to be charging accordingly for that. So how we came up with this is we came up with the 175, which is a proof book cost, divided by our cost of goods, which is 30%, and that dollar amount is $583.33. Then we took our $135 which is our miscellaneous cost, we divided that again by our cost of goods, which is 30%, and that equals $450. So if you add those together, that equals $1,033.33. So once you add that to your 20 hours, your total cost on this project is $3205.33. That's how much it cost you to get this wedding package to be able to do this. Now, the one thing we haven't added in on the total cost is we haven't added in our profit margin. So we have to add in 10% for profit. So if you look at this particular wedding based on all of the items that we have in here, now we haven't done a wedding album yet or anything like that, so that would have to be added in if we're doing that. But minimally at this point, come down here to your bottom, minimally $3,525.87 that you need to be charging for this wedding package. Now, if you have a wedding album in here and things like that, you're going to have to include that. Timing, how much it costs you to, how many hours that you have involved getting that together. And of course, remember that your wedding album is a cost of goods. It's not a cost of operation. So you need to be able to add that in. So herein lies the wedding cost based on just analysis on what you need to be getting on a per hour basis, folks. So what you need to do is figure out all of your different wedding packages based on the dollar amount that you need to be making per hour. We've already known what that value is because we've taken our total cost of operation, we've divided by the 52 weeks, and then of course by how many hours in that week. And so we know what our value is per hour, and vice versa. We also know what it is per minute for that same math. So that's the price per wedding. So tomorrow, come on back in video number 6, and we're going to price another item. Until then, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and I'll see you on the tube.